What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Files podcast, where we talk about our favorite fantasy series and topics. We are your co-hosts, Spencer and Gabe, and today we're finishing up our discussion of the last installment of the Greenbone saga, Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. So this is part 2 of 2. So if you missed the first part, I recommend going back onto our channel and checking out the first part, because it was great discussion. Be sure to like and subscribe here on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at Files Fantasy. Also, a reminder that right now you can enter to win the first 2 audiobooks of the Greenbone saga by checking out our Greenbone giveaway here on our channel. I'll also link it up in that corner. So yeah, without further ado, let's get back into our discussion. All right.
Okay.
And I just have them marked in the book here. And
Yep.
I think that both of these quotes do such a good job of wrapping up this series. Like, they just do a good job of really tying a bow on Nico's feelings and
Yep.
just the feelings of how the clan is in general. And also another quote really tying a bow on just kind of everything that's happened and how this is all wrapping up. This one is right after Barrow has confronted, or Nico has confronted Barrow in his apartment. So I have 2 paragraphs here. The first one is just kind of to set up the second paragraph. The second paragraph is more what I'm getting at here. Nico left the room and walked out of the building with his bodyguards. He was deeply unsettled, not by what the drunkard had said, but by what he'd seen in those hollow eyes. Even a wretched man like Barrow, sunken to the bottom of society, still harbored an intense, maddening desire to be part of the great myth. It was a myth that ruled Kacon and its people down to its bones, that drove society's obsession with the trappings of greenness, that even seduced foreigners who could never truly understand it. Clans and Jade, murder and vengeance, burdens and feuds and failures passed down from father to brother to son. None of it was a myth to Nico at all, but part of his lived experience, inescapable but malleable truths that it had taken him a world of searching to accept. And I'm just, man, that's such a good, it wraps up so perfectly. Even the people that aren't in the clan have this obsession with greenness, about being green and wearing jade and stuff, but it's all a myth. They don't see this violent side. They don't see the dark side to the clan and what it means to really be a Greenbone. All these people watching from the outside, they don't really know what it means to be in the clan, and they can never know because they can't wear jade.
Yep.
And so, or they, they're not experienced enough to wear jade.
Yeah.
This one is when Shay is meeting with Aitmata for the last time. And Aitmata is, she's telling Aitmata that she needs to step down as pillar and hand it over to Otto.
Yeah. Yep.
The No Peak clan had grown many limbs across the country and around the world to defend itself from attacks by a larger foe. It had raced to become modern and responsive in order to survive. If anyone had tried to win against Ait on her terms, they would have been destroyed. But from the beginning, Hilo had surrounded himself with the people he most needed, and so No Peak was propelled by many strong personalities, pushing and pulling against each other, but also somehow together carrying the clan. The family had suffered terrible strife and losses that had at times torn them apart, but they were also bound tightly in a way that I and the Cobans could never be.
Mm.
And I'm just like, man, that is a perfect way to sum up the clan. Like they are by no means perfect, and they are extremely flawed, and they fight against each other all the
Yep.
time. Shay and Wen going behind Hilo's back, Hilo acting impulsively against the weatherman's suggestions,
Yep.
and just everything, and Nico leaving the clan, and all these things, and in refusing to wear his jade. There's all these flaws within the clan, but what she's saying here is, at the end of the day, like we hold this clan together. Like we carry this clan, and we do what needs to be done no matter what anybody else does. We have a bond and a connection that the mountain can never have,
For sure.
because they don't have this like deeply ingrained family lineage. Like Ait, even up into her 60s, was trying to run the clan by herself, and she like kept hanging on to being the pillar. And No Peak is very ingrained. Like they know when it's time to step down as the pillar.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really cool. And also she doesn't even have like a blood heir. She just picked up some random family basically that was close enough,
Yep.
and gave them the spot of pillar. And so there's no like deep connection there. And I think that quote just does such a good job of explaining like why No Peak is so close and why it works
Yes.
so well.
For sure.
All right, let's go into our favorite moments or most emotional moments. I know we've already covered a bunch of these, but what were some of your favorite parts of this book? Some of your favorite scenes?
All right. Yeah. So, I thoroughly enjoyed the entire, not just the John bombing scenes, but the entire setup that came before that. And
Mhm.
and you didn't really know, so what's that movement called? The No Clans movement or whatever.
The clanless future
Clan.
movement.
Okay, CFM or yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
That one.
CFO.
So seeing Barrow kind of, he's paid to spy and to get in there and infiltrates it, and you see him do all this. And then at one point they're like, it's the girl who fucks him because he's been like hitting on her forever. Uh,
Yeah,
tells him like it's gonna happen tomorrow. Here's the address or whatever else. So he calls the spy place or his handler or whatever, tells him what's going on, and then more happens. But the event was the bombing of the what's the place called? It's where they did the Jade something Association or the uh Jade something Alliance. It's like where
they
they do all the
the
political meetings for all the
yeah,
Jade.
for the Jade Kekon Jade Alliance or
Okay,
something.
that one exactly. So they're there, and all of a sudden, Hilo gets this note, and it says, "You need to get out of here. Life's in danger." And Hilo is with Juan Papi Do out, don't do anything. And so Hilo's trying to like perceive if anybody's got some murderous intent in there, right? And so he's like
Yeah.
waiting for somebody to do something. And then of course Aitmata like does get upset. But when Hilo gets up to leave, Aitmata gets furious, like, why are you doing this? All of a sudden, one of the child from the Ven family who I had murdered out got up and stabbed her in the neck, which is also the girl that Barrow fucked.
Right.
Like, got her right in the neck, dude. She wasn't expecting it. So that was just crazy. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck, dude? I was like shocked
I
at
was
that
like,
point.
oh shit, if this is how Ait dies, like that was super
No,
unexpected.
exactly. And I had the same thought. And then of course, being a badass, she beats the shit out of her. I'm pretty sure she kills her.
Yeah.
And then so she's like bleeding out, right? Got her knife in her neck. She pulls it out. She's trying to channel into it and whatnot, using her own body's energy. And Hilo walks over and steps in front of the door. And basically, that statement was, no, she's not going
Yeah.
to get help. She's going to die right here. So that was
And
pretty
everybody else in the room just sat and watched her
acknowledged
too.
it.
Like
Yeah. Yep. They saw
they all
Hilo and were
wanted
like,
her to die.
I'm not going to go against it. Like, this is probably for the best and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so she then realizes what's going on and jumps out of the window. It's like 3 or 4 stories up, or maybe even
Yeah.
more, super high, hits the ground, starts running, which I thought was crazy. I was like, that she's got to wear a lot of jade to do shit like that. And then, but shortly after that, Hilo looks down out the window and there's a van there. And next scene is there's a huge bomb goes off, blows out the bottom floor of the place, blows and on about this, but later they're trying to like they're digging through the rubble, Shay's freaking out. Everybody's panicked, nobody has any information, everybody's freaking out. And then of course, luckily later Hilo and Juan Papi Duan are okay. They're hurt, but they're okay. And so yeah, I don't know. That was just freaking crazy, dude.
Well, it's kind of cool because the last thing we see is Hilo go down with the building.
Yeah.
And then for the next chapter or two, we switch to like Shay's point of view, and she's waiting for information. She's trying to get it. Like, have we found them? Like, what's the likelihood that they've survived?
Yep.
And we're waiting for information with her.
Yeah.
And so like we don't have any of the answers. So we're just as like stressed out and freaking out as she is.
Yep.
And it's like, oh shit. And I thought Hilo was dead.
Yeah, I did too, man.
I was like, either Hilo's dead or Woon is dead. One of them has got to die in this scene, I would imagine. Yep. And I was so relieved to find out that they were alive. Yep. But I think that Fonda Lee did a really good job in those chapters of like, you are feeling what Shay is feeling because you don't have any more information than she does.
Yep.
And then of course, Shay, while she's looking for, she's got like she has Jade at this point, right? She's got her. To heal her. And that was a super cool scene because they're in whatever room somewhere.
But it was in the temple. Shay went over to the temple of Divine Returns or whatever it's called, the place where she goes to worship and bow her head. And I was curled up in the corner dying. And so it was like kind of happenstance thing.
Yeah,
sort of.
And so Andon, she calls Andon. He comes over and he is like channeling into her, and he like just barely saves her to the point where she like has to go get medical attention right now. And the old horn comes in because Shay called him, and she was like, hey, your pillar is dying and you need to come get her. And Andon has this moment where he realizes like, why am I protecting Aitmata? Like, and there's kind of this moment where like he steps in front of the door a little bit.
Yeah.
And he's trying to decide, okay, do I kill them? Like, do I just kill them right now and get this over with? Because, this is our one chance to get rid of Aitmata.
Yeah.
And this old horn who's been, a murderous person.
Yes.
And then finally he like lets him go. And I was just like, man, you should have killed her.
Yeah.
You should have killed her.
Yeah.
Sure. But yeah,
I was pissed off when she what do I need to do? And I understand both sides of that action very well. I totally get where she's coming from. The first one, like Aitmata's not destroyed, but she's done so much damage to her family and her clan. But then I also understood, like, Shay even talks to Nico or no, it was Andon about this. And like, so if she dies in this time of crisis, do you want some unexperienced whoever else to come take her place as pillar and fuck everything up more than it's already fucked up? And I was like, you know what? I get that. That makes sense. As much as I hate her, dude, it made sense to me at the time. And then of course it doesn't really work out in the end, so far past that. But I could see where she was coming from.
Yeah, definitely. So then at some other point in the book, or I think it was earlier than that, Dauk dies, which was really sad. And Hilo and Andon go to the funeral and they sit down with kind of the greenest people, including like Corey and some of his like green bone friends in Espenia. And then this Remy guy, known as the Bad Keck.
Yep.
He's kind of like this gangster in Espenia who's been kind of going off on his own, and he's doing like extortion and all these like more mobster type things.
Yep.
And they basically tell everybody like, hey, we're going to be totally screwed unless everyone stops their illegal activities. And this includes the grudge hall, like cockfighting, and the the clean blade duels. Like, we need to stop that for now until we can get Jade legalized. And this guy, does not want to abide by that. He's like, you can't tell me what to do. Even though the clan is like what made him as powerful as he is up to this point, because Andon went out there initially and made this deal with him, and the clan has been supporting him. And so then, somewhere in the midst of all that, Make-Tar gets exiled because he killed his girlfriend. And that was crazy.
That was crazy, dude.
Hilo lets him live.
Yeah.
And then later we just get this scene where Make-Tar is, he's been exiled for like 15 years or something. And we see him going to one of Remy's gatherings. And he's like, I want to become basically one of your fists. And he's like, I have all this experience with green bones, and I know everything that you need to know, and I can give you information. And so for over a year, it might have even been 2 years, it kind of does all this stuff for Remy. And then finally Remy is like, I'm going to grant you Jade, and has like this big ceremony, gives him Jade. And then Make-Tar, what does he do? Doesn't he put his fingers?
Well, so he grabs the Jade, and then he says something like, like, thank you for the second chance. And then literally stabs his fingers and rips the guy's esophagus out, like rips his throat out with his fingers. Yeah.
Dude, it was so insane.
Yep.
And then he runs away, and then the police catch him. He goes into prison, and Corey comes out, and he's like, man, we can get you to like 10 years.
Yeah. Well, so before that though, one part that stood out to me was that he called Hilo.
Yeah.
And he called Hilo, and he was crying like, I did something, like I'm in trouble. And Hilo was like, we'll take care of it. Don't worry. I got your back. Like, super caring. And like, cause last time we saw it, Hilo was like, I don't ever want to see you again. Well, not like that, but it's like, I can't ever see you again. Like, you have to stay away. So I thought that was cool that like after, all those 15 or whatever years, 16 years, Hilo was like willing to like, be like, okay, I'm going to do everything I can to help you. We'll figure it out, this and that. I don't know. I thought that was cool.
Well, what's cool is we find out that Andon was in on it, and we get that flashback scene where Andon goes and visits him.
Yep.
And in his little house. And so, Hilo couldn't be seen where Hilo is at any given time. Like, he's always being filmed by news and stuff like that. And so Andon is able to move around more or less anonymously. And he's like, man, like, we really really need you to do this. Like
Yeah.
like this would really help the clan.
Yep.
And so when when he calls Hilo, it's kind of weighted with just this like, okay, like I did the thing, like this is what's happening. I'm resigned to my fate, but I just want to let you know that it's done.
Yep.
And then Hilo does everything he can to get him out of prison, and then Maktar hangs himself because
Yeah.
he doesn't want to be there for another 10 years.
Yep.
It's so sad.
It was super sad, dude. Super sad.
Shay is in a bathtub of Jade.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Her and Wen get kidnapped. What'd you think about all this?
It was wild, dude. It was wild. So when that scene started, and they're drive. It was in Shatar, right? Is that where this
Yeah,
took place? Okay, they're driving and whatnot, and they, her and Shay are just like they're so like cordial, and the attitudes that they have, or the mood that's set, is so nice. Like they're just hanging
yeah,
out and whatnot. All of a sudden they get lit up, right? And so after all that happened and they got taken, I knew the way that, because do you remember the scene in the last book where Hilo buried the guy alive and made him swallow Jade,
yes. Oh
right?
my
So
God, yeah,
yeah, dude, crazy. And so that's what made me think of, and I just can't even imagine how that was for her. It would have been insane, dude, insane. So yeah, that whole thing was pretty wild. And I love seeing how they got figured out, and how, Hilo paid like 14 kilos of jade and 10 million whatever to get Wen
yeah,
back. And then Shay's deal was like, you got to pull everything out of our country and whatnot. So yeah, that was
yeah.
wild, dude. It was very well thought out for the criminals.
That's right. I forgot about that. They had to
Yeah,
completely pull out of
everything
Shatar
in
and they gave it to the
7 days.
mountain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh man,
Yeah, it
that's
was nuts,
crazy.
dude.
um yeah, when they got lit up, I was just like, what's going on? Like
Yeah,
why would a police officer light them up?
for
And then
real.
for them to get kidnapped, oh my God, like
Yeah,
that
dude.
whole scene was just so nuts. And
Yes.
man, if you think about just all the things that have happened to these characters, we've had people getting blown up,
Yep.
the getting their throat slit,
Yep.
getting buried alive with Jade, getting put in a bathtub full of Jade. Dude,
Yep.
she was about to get the itches.
Oh, bad. Yeah.
She was
She,
starting to like get the itches and
yeah, she
stuff.
probably would have killed herself, man. You don't
Yeah,
survive, man. The story about Enid's mom and the itches, dude,
yeah,
that story still haunts me. I still
oh
think about
yeah,
that to this day. She's sitting in a bathtub with a cheese grater grating her arm apart because she's like, "Oh, don't worry, honey, I'm just really itchy." Like, dude, that's
yeah,
crazy. That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. It's nuts. And so yeah, I was just like, I thought Shay was gonna die. I was like,
Yeah.
Shay's
No,
dead.
I was there. I had a little bit of hope, but I was leaning on the side of death for sure because it just did
Yeah,
not look good.
yeah. So we also get an awesome flashback to when Hilo and Lon were fists before either of them became Pillar or Horn.
Yep.
Um, and this was such a cool little flashback because we get to see Lon again, but
Yeah.
also we see Hilo use his cunning to duel this guy named Tonka from the Mountain
Yeah.
Clan, who was going to be married to Shay to join the clans. And Hilo knew this was a bad idea, and so he pretends to be drunk, and he puts like lemon juice in his eyes to make them all red and everything. And then he's like fighting this guy, and he's like letting himself. He's drunk and he's not going to win the fight. And then like at the last moment, he like channels into the guy and like cuts into his femoral
Femoral
artery.
artery. Yeah,
And
dude.
then it said that he like grabbed the dude's head and like ran it across his knife.
Oh
And I
gosh.
was just like, oh my
You're like,
God, that
dude,
was
that's it.
so
That's what that is.
nuts.
Just cunning. Pure Hilo cunning right there.
Yeah, it was such an awesome scene. All the lead up to it, like he was with the Make brothers, and he's like, man, I got a plan.
Yep.
And they go to this bar, they're being loud. This, Tonka comes in, and they're just being total dicks to him and stuff. And everything he did, like, laid it out so well
Yeah.
for them to completely underestimate him. And what's funny about that is it kind of mirrors a little bit. It mirrors what Jaya does later at that bar, because she goes in and she's being like all flirty, and she like scoots in really close to him, and she has like her hand on his knee, and he's like, oh, like a pretty girl like you or whatever. And she's like, oh, you think I'm pretty? And
Yeah.
like being completely just like lowering him into
Yep.
this false
Yep.
sense of security. And then she walks out the door and just blows the place up.
Yeah.
And so I thought those were two like really cool scenes that kind of mirror each other. I really enjoyed that. We talked a little bit about Nico coming back and begging forgiveness,
Yep.
and when slapping him. I forgot to mention though that Nico is about to offer his ear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Hilo pulls the knife away.
Yep.
And then he forgives him.
That was pretty powerful too, because the way that Fonda wrote it was so like it made you seem that like the ear was gonna get cut off, like that's what it sounded like. And then all of a sudden, he's like, I went down to, I pulled the knife down, in a thrust, and then all of a sudden Hilo's hands there and catches it.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that was sick. Like that was super cool.
It was super cool. Oh, so they kind of get rid of the Gonlu Solutions International, the mercenary group, by Hilo kind of makes them violate Aisho, which was kind of interesting because he attacks the helicopter.
Yep.
And then all these like civilians and green bones like rush onto the helipad, and these mercenaries just start shooting at him, and they killed like multiple civilians. And so that was one of the things that like really brought them down. And that was something that I kind of forgot to talk about in the world building of, maybe the Jade City episode or Jade War, is that Aisho is kind of this interesting idea where, the clans are essentially Yakuza, right?
Yeah.
But they are not allowed to, it doesn't like affect civilians.
No.
Like civilians, like Aisho is this rule where, civilians cannot be caught in the crossfire between the clan battles. And if they are, there has to be like reparations that are made.
For sure.
And I think that's kind of a cool part of this world that I probably forgot to talk about earlier.
No, you're good. I totally agree. Aisho is like this an ancient belief system that the clans going back however long have always followed. So it's like, I'm trying to relate this. I really like anime, and there's a couple anime where there's stuff like this where, it's not the law. The government has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But it's just a set of rules that everybody always follows, always, through anything. But the crazy part when I think about that is those that like, well, but it's not the law. Like they could not follow it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which happens, I that happens several times in this book when I might have done some blacklist shit, some weird stuff behind the back of everybody else. But yeah, so I've enjoyed Aisho and learning more about it, because at first like we don't really know what it is, and then we start to kind of get the pictures put together and see what the rules are and kind of how it fits and stuff.
Speaking of anime, would you rather see, because I guess I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's rumored that these books are picked up for either a television series or a movie. I think somebody has the rights to them for a motion picture adaptation.
Yeah.
So would you rather see this series, and you watch more anime than I do by far, so you would know if it would work as an anime, but would you rather see this as an anime or like a live action adaptation?
Oh, anime by far.
Yeah.
I think the potential for the way that they could play this off in an anime is so much greater than, you know, the potential of humans. And I know that sounds weird,
Yeah.
but you can make shit look so much cooler in anime because you've got I mean, it's all editing. Like you can make
Yeah.
anything happen, any
Right.
explosion, any feeling, any time warp or whatever else. So I think that they would be a lot better off making an anime than a movie. Even though a
Yeah.
movie would be awesome, like I would love a movie, but
Yeah.
still, I think, dude, if they made a series about this, I would fucking promote the shit out of it. Like
I was gonna say,
I would
could you
love it.
imagine could you imagine in like 3 or 4 years if we're watching an adaptation of this?
Yeah,
Like that would be
yeah,
so
dude.
crazy.
Yeah, it would be insane.
I would
It'd be
love
so
that.
cool. Me too.
Um, so Hilo blackmails Jim Santo. He finally gets him. And I think he should have fucking killed him right
Mm,
when Jim Santo was like recruiting Nico.
yeah,
Because Hilo shows up at their compound with like all of his green
for real.
bones.
And he like fucking walks in there like he's Superman, owns the
Yeah,
place. Like
that
get
was
yeah. Yeah,
awesome.
dude,
That
it
was
was so
so
cool.
cool.
I know.
Oh, it was so cool. And then
I
he just
know.
doesn't do anything.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm like, what the hell? And he's got him in his office. I'm like, surely he's gonna like kill him, or he's gonna make it, he's gonna like threaten him or beat the hell out of him to the
Yep.
point where, you know, this guy is not gonna be able to say no to
Yeah,
Hilo.
yeah.
Um, and then he just walks out of there. I'm like, dude, you should have. Jim Santo, like, he makes so many problems
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
everything
For sure.
that Hilo should have killed him. And then but then Hilo blackmails him with testimonies and like a mountain of other records and
Yep.
stuff, showing the kind of stuff that GSI does. And he's like, I'll release this to the public if you
Yeah,
don't give me everything you know about Art Wiles, who's the guy who pretty much bought the company.
for sure.
Um, he's like over Jim Santo. And so I'm like, that was a moment where I was like, yes, like you finally got him. And he like tells him like, you will never ever operate in KCON. You will never hire another green bone. You can't hire anybody from the clans. Like
Yep.
you can't touch us at all. And so I love that moment just when Jim realizes that he is completely screwed.
Yep. He's outbeat for sure.
We talked about Hilo getting killed at that meeting.
Yep.
One of the interesting things from that meeting, though, is that Otto asked Nico if he would like to marry one of his cousins. And up until this point in the book, it was made pretty clear that Nico didn't really have any real relationships. Like he was
Yeah.
having sex with girls and stuff, but he wasn't like
Like in love or
emotionally
anything.
tied
Yeah.
to anybody. Yeah. And so when Otto says this, it's kind of like, I think it even says it in the book. It's like, oh yeah, he might as well do kind of this arranged marriage thing to bring the clans together,
Yep.
because you know he doesn't really have like an emotional connection to
Yeah.
anybody that he's dated or anything, so he might as well do this marriage that is good for the clan. um you know, because like Hilo had Wen, and people were against that marriage, but he loved her.
Yeah.
um but Nico doesn't really have that.
Yep.
So I thought that was really cool how that was put into the book leading up to this moment where, you know, it seems like we pretty much know that he's gonna marry one of Otto's cousins
Yeah.
and bring the clans together that way. And so I just thought that was really cool. I thought that was, you know, it was something that I didn't really
Yep.
notice while I was reading until that very end there.
Yep. I would totally agree. Oh yeah. So this is a very minor point. Um, but I was glad that they pointed it out. Because you know, Coco is Rue got Coco, right? Coco's Rue's
Oh
dog.
yeah.
And so after Rue died, Coco, I don't if they made it a week or whatever else. And I love dogs so much. Like dogs are a huge part of my life. They always have been, they always will be. So hearing that, Coco couldn't go on past Rue was like super sad, but also like just showed me the connection that they had and how powerful it was. Cause like, they don't ever mention dogs in this book, except for Coco really, unless I missed a couple scenes, but like, I don't ever really hear about dogs.
Yeah.
And so it was cool to see that. And again, that's a very minor note, but just another thing that was, kind of hit me in home, I guess.
Yeah.
Coco couldn't live without Rue. And I was like,
Yeah.
man, that's pretty sad.
Yeah, dude, that was super sad.
Yeah.
And Coco is like Rue's favorite.
Yeah. I mean, it
Like
was his person.
they were so bonded.
Yep. And he would come home just to see Rue like just to see Coco like once a week or whatever else. Like he would even say
Yeah.
that. Like I would just come home to see the dog. But yeah, so that was kind of sad.
There's this other note that I realized I missed about Rue. So at the funeral, Wen is kind of thinking about Rue and how much, even though he was a Stone Eye, how much like Hilo he was.
Yeah.
He, no matter what he's doing, he never gives up and never backs down. He offers a clean blade and wins.
Yeah.
But then, he was tragically killed.
Yep.
And there's this quote. She thinks, that's the life of a greenbone. Even when we win, we suffer.
Mm.
As like, oh man, that's so
Yeah.
true.
Yep. So true.
But
Absolutely.
Rue was awesome in that fight. That was
Yeah, he was
that was
kick-ass.
so sick. He was
Yes.
beating the crap out of that guy
Yep.
and just won so quick. He didn't have any Jade.
Knife on him, dude. I was so mad.
Yeah,
I was so
I
mad.
know.
What a bitch.
Oh, something we didn't mention about Andon is he eventually gets Jade approved in
Oh
Espenia.
yeah.
Like
Yep.
he's the whole reason why Jade gets approved over there.
For and approved for medical use. It was for
Right.
yeah, just for medical though, not so we don't
Well,
confuse
no,
people.
by the end,
Well, yeah, by the end you're right, it is legalized, but the first part is just
yeah,
approved for medical use. So yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, it gets approved for and a bunch of like Greenbone healers go over to Espenia to teach
Yeah.
it and everything. That was super cool. And then by the end, I think it was in like the last couple chapters, it talks about how there's like schools that have opened up that teach the Jade disciplines.
Yeah, yep.
And I'm like, man, that's really cool. Way to go, Andon. Him and like asking him all these leading questions and trying to get him to slip up.
Yep.
And the other doctors and reporters and stuff there were like, I think we've had enough of your shit for one day.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly. They're like, shut the fuck up, dude. We don't need to hear any more of this fucking entrapment.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much all I got as far as notes.
Awesome.
I'm kind of curious. Would you rather see more like Greenbone Saga books from her, like following Nico and all those and like the next generation? Or would you rather see her work on something completely different?
That is such a good question. I think that the way that this series was wrapped up was very well done.
Yeah.
I think that she can end it here and I would be happy with that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's part of me that knows that it could be stretched out or whatever else. And I was looking at the inside cover of this book, Jade Legacy, and it says that she's Crossfire and Zero Boxer are the name of the three of them. So
Okay.
I honestly think, man, like I would be happy with this ending here. Of course, I would love to see more, maybe even short stories on Nico or Andon or whatever else that could come out. But yeah, I'm torn between it. I think the ending the way that she wrapped it up was super good. I would
Yeah.
love to see more of it, but I think that if she didn't want to write more, this was a perfect way to end everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
100%.
Yep.
I think I would be very interested to see what she does after this, because, you know, I would imagine that these books taught her so much,
Yeah. Yeah.
and she learned a lot about like character building. I mean, she was already a great author in
For
the
sure.
first Jade City book, but I'm sure by the end of it, she learned so much about,
Yeah.
you know, just what she wants to write and how she wants to build characters.
Yep.
And so I'd be super interested to see whatever she does next. I think I would rather have something different,
Yeah.
and then like after she does like another trilogy of something else, maybe come back to Greenbone Saga.
Mm.
But I think she did the whole thing about this book is about the series is about generations.
Yeah.
And so I think she left it wide open to do more of them.
Yes.
And you know, there's so many things now that we're a couple days removed from it. Of course, I've thought of all these questions I would have loved to have asked her while we were there.
Yep.
But yeah, I would love to know like what her plans for the future are. I'm sure right now she's just celebrating the release of this book and celebrating having the trilogy over. And, you know, it'll probably be a few years until we see anything else. But yeah, I think whatever she works on next is going to be great. And it'll definitely be a day one pickup for us.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Any final thoughts on this book?
I don't think so, man. I think we covered everything I would like to talk about.
Yeah, I think you know, this was a very unexpected, wild ride.
Yeah, for sure.
And I had known that people really liked Jade City, and I had heard about it for a while. But it wasn't until I saw Daniel Green's review like 6 or 7 months ago. He had an advanced reader copy for Jade Legacy. And he just gave it such a glowing review. I'm like, okay, well, I know the ending is good. So maybe I should read this series.
For sure.
And, you know, even after reading the first book, I was not expecting to care about this series as much as I do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think she just wrapped this series up so well, and there's so much heart in it. The characters are so amazing, and they really grow on you, and you grow with them. And it's just what a fantastic trilogy. She really made something special here, and I hope that she knows like what, I'm sure she does, but I hope she knows like what she's made
for sure,
what kind of like huge explosion this is in the reading community, how much people love it.
It makes an impact for sure. Huge impact on books like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, we are going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey through these amazing books. It has really been an amazing ride, and it's honestly really sad that it's over now. Even though we just started these recently, we feel like we've been reading them for so long. A big thank you to Fonda Lee for writing these books that have brought us such a whirlwind of emotions and fantastic characters. Again, if you'd like to check out the first 2 audiobooks, we have our Greenbone Saga giveaway going on right now. Just reach out to us for an Audible copy. We'll see you again soon with some smaller reviews and a year-end wrap-up video where we talk about our favorite books from 2021. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe down below on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at Files Fantasy. Until next time, if there's anything we learned from these books, it's this. Remember to hug your loved ones really tightly tonight, because you never know when they'll be kidnapped and lowered into a giant tub of jade, or be killed in a clean-bladed duel, or exploded by a car bomb, or catch a deflected bullet by insurgents, or you get the picture. Good night, everyone.
Dude, that was so good.
I was like, what if I just added like 5 more things and just kept going?
Yeah, dude, it works. It so works for this book, dude. Absolutely.